1997. I remember preparing for bed that night, securing all the locks on every door and the windows. I had a feeling he was coming back after me that night. I went upstairs and made sure I secured the bedroom doors as well as bathroom doors. You see, my children and I shared what you call Jack and Jill bathrooms. Around 4 a.m., I heard my doorknob turn. I was always a light sleeper. He had woken up my oldest son to tell him to ask for water. My son was at least 8 years old and had never woken up to ask for water. I immediately called his grandmother, who he lived with, and explained, "I think he's in my house. Can you confirm he's not at yours?" His grandmother said, "Call the police." I did. They came but couldn't get in. He had bolted the doors. They asked for permission to use the battering ram, and I agreed. I heard another knock. It was the police saying, "Ma'am, you can come out now. We have him." When I opened the door, he was in handcuffs. The saddest thing about this was my son was there to witness the whole takedown. Did he ever come back? Of course he did. Stay with me. I have more to tell. 1998. I remember coming home from church on a Wednesday night. It was just me and my babies. I had lived in a townhouse that was in a gated community. I remember pulling into the parking lot and there was this taxi driver sitting there and he was flagging me down. I rolled down my window and he began to speak very panicky. He said, ma'am, do you know anyone out here who may know this really big guy? He's about 6'5", maybe about 300 pounds. He got a ride out here by me, but he jumped out of my taxi without paying and he ran. By this time, I saw him jumping out of my bushes right in front of my door. I yelled for the taxi driver to move. I made a U-turn and left the complex. You see, he was lying and waiting for me and my children to come home that night to do God knows what. I know it was God that had that taxi driver to stop me. Why did I keep going back? Stay with me. There's more. The night I came face to face with death. It was a Friday night. I had just gotten off work. I needed to go and get my children settled because I needed to be back for a banquet that night. He had been driving my dad's car, and I told him that I needed it to get back to the banquet. He became upset. While driving, he says, "You know what? I'm really sick of you. You should have said bye to your kids because you won't see them again after tonight." We were at a red light. I jumped out of the car and began running. He had pulled over and put the car in park and began running after me. I've never been able to be a fast runner. I yelled. People looked at me, but they turned away. He caught me, took me back to the car and said, "You just took more minutes off your life." He drove further, took me to an abandoned school that had a track. He began to rip my clothes off. I fought back. I was able to get the door open and get away. I ran again. There was one woman on the track walking. I was barefoot and pantsless. I screamed for help. The lady ignored me. He caught me again. Back to the car, though. He talked to me like a child. He explained everything that he had gone through in his life and what role I had played in it to add to his misfortunes. He says, "Tonight, I'm going to end it all." He said that we were going across the bridge to the art center where he would take my life and then his own. Our children would be left with no parents. Immediately, God gave me the words to say. I talked him out of it. I said, "My job will be looking for me if I don't show up. Please just drop me off at the banquet and we'll talk later and we'll fix everything." He said, "You promise?" I said, "Yes." He took me to the banquet. He wanted reassurance when we got to the parking lot and he asked again, "You promise?" I said, "Yes, I promise." I jumped out of the car and ran to the building. It was then he knew that I had gotten away. I told the people what had happened and my clothes were ripped and I was looking very disheveled. They called the police. They also were on the lookout for my dad's car. Later that night, the police arrived at our home and said my dad's car had been found. In an attempt to commit suicide, he had run the car into a generator and totaled it. He was alive. Did he ever come back? Of course he did. Stay with me. June 27th, 1998 was the day that I said I do. Not just in marriage, but I do to a lot of other trauma that was to proceed. This is not a copycat of Who the F Did I Marry? I knew exactly who he was. All the signs were there. But there was something in my 25-year-old mind that said marriage would change him. After all, he had just attempted suicide. I can't leave him now. I felt sorry for him. He had shared some deep, dark secrets of his childhood, and supposedly, I was going to be his secret keeper. We had just left the reception, gone up to the local hotel to stay, and we would leave out the next morning for our honeymoon. He left the room about midnight saying he would be right back. He never returned until 6 a.m. the next morning. I knew then I had made the biggest mistake of my life. Stay with me. There's more I need to tell you. December 1998. We had been married for about 6 months, and one of my best friends had just lost her life at the hands of her husband, who had shared the same prestigious profession as my husband. I knew all too well what it looked like when they were angry and unemployed. He began to incorporate more drinking into his day, sitting outside the house in a drunken stupor, waiting on everyone to go to bed before he would even come into the house. This night, I had put my children to bed after dinner and had fallen asleep myself. He was still outside. I was awakened by him stumbling into the house, turning on all the lights, going from room to room. I remember putting my head up under the covers. I knew what was coming next. He began calling my name repeatedly. I wouldn't answer. There was a jar of coins on the dresser that we were collecting coins. He began throwing those coins at my head and yelling, "Get up, get up." This lasted for about 45 seconds nonstop. I felt like he was at the firing range and I was the target. I began to cry. I called my parents and told them what was going on. They sent my brother Avery over to the house to make sure that I was okay. But by the time Avery got over there, he had already fallen over, asleep on the floor. Dang, man. Why did I marry this dude? Stay with me. I still got more stories to tell. Fast forward, the year 2000. I thought things were changing for the better. He had gotten his profession restored, and he was headed to Milwaukee. I would stay back home in Arkansas to work and keep the kids, and he would send money home. The first year it worked perfectly. The second year, he transferred to Houston. Mid-season, he was injured. I remember traveling back and forth to help take care of him and take him to his orthopedic appointments. One night, after he had gotten home from Houston, I was asleep. He woke me up, just calling my name. He proceeds to tell me, while in Houston, he had an affair. Why is he telling me this? Why would he wake me up from a peaceful sleep to tell me this? Of course, I let out a gut-wrenching cry. After pulling myself together, I turned over to ask questions. This man was sound asleep, y'all. He even began snoring. Now it's not just physical and mental abuse. Add emotional abuse to my life. Y'all, please stay with me. I still got more to tell. 2001, he tricks me. I had quit my job because he said, this time when I go back to Houston, I'm taking my family with me. I was all excited, thinking, yes, we're getting ready to start over. Looks like he's trying to do better for his family. One Saturday, while going to visit my parents before our supposed move date, he says to me, I feel like God is telling me to move down here instead. My head began to spin. What? Why would I want to live down here? Why would you change it without discussing it with me first? It was like all a setup, but I agreed to it because, what girl wouldn't want a man who hears the voice of God and wants to do what he needs to do for his family? Boy, this was the beginning of a whole new ball game. While in the new town, this is when I would start fighting back. I regained my voice. I became violent. Stick with me. Yeah, the story gets a lot worse. 2001, 2004 was a little more peaceful. He hadn't had a drink in about 3 years. 2005, game on. I had given birth the year before to our miracle baby. We had purchased a home, and he had been promoted to supervisor on his job. He had come home that evening, and I could smell alcohol all over him. I already knew what this liquid courage did for him. So I told the kids, go to the car. We were going to leave. On my way out of the door, I had my youngest son in my hand. I'd grabbed my keys and my cell phone. By this time, he had yanked the cell phone out of my hand and said, you're not going anywhere. I remember him sitting back in that wingback chair with a smirk on his face, saying, if you want it, come get it. My children had stopped in their tracks. I kept yelling for him to give me my phone back. He smiled this time, and my oldest son, who was 15 at the time, went into the kitchen. I heard the knives rattling. He came back and said to him, give my mom her phone back. He threw the phone at me. When he did, he hit my baby in the head. My baby let out this horrible scream. My daughter quickly picked up the phone and ran out into the garage and called my mom while screaming hysterically. My mom didn't know what was going on, so she called the police to meet her there at my house. They came out. They made a report again. We left for the night with my mom. My oldest son called his uncle in Little Rock and told him what happened. His uncle asked me if he could come stay with him for the summer so that he would be safe there and not tempted to hurt this man. I agreed. My son left that night for the summer, but never came back to live with us again. Some days I still feel guilty. I felt like I was giving my son away. But as time went by, we both learned it saved his life. Stay with me. Yeah, I still got a few more years left. In 2008, I had had enough. I had gotten a new job and moved back to Little Rock in our childhood home. I thought since he'd had his position at work, he would stay there and I would take the kids with me to live in Little Rock. Not. He followed me. He worked a third shift. We only had one car, so he would take the car every night and pretend to go to work. I found out later that he had been fired for failing a drug test. Drugs? All I've ever known was the alcohol. The letter came in the mail. He sat at the edge of the bed crying. The crying was only an attempt to divert the conversation from drugs. He explained that he had been on a 10-day suspension while waiting on the test results. It was at that time the light bulb went off. If you've been on a suspension for 10 days, where have you been going every night, pretending to be at work? Did he tell the truth? Of course he didn't. Stay with me. He's got some free time on his hand. 2009, I had purchased a second car. I needed to be able to make sure he would pick the kids up from school while I worked. He was still unemployed, but found time to sleep all day and run the streets all night. I would get calls from my daughter saying, "Mama, I'm still at school." He hadn't picked me up. My youngest son was also still stuck at school. I would get calls repeatedly from the school saying, "Your son needs to be picked up." I called him, no answer. He would deliberately not answer my calls. I even asked the neighbors to go knock on the door for me to wake him up. After about 5 times of this happening, the school secretary said to me, "If he's left here again, we're going to have to turn you into CPS." I had to begin to take my lunch breaks at 3 p.m. every day, only to pick up my children from 2 different schools, drop them off at home, and go back to work for 2 hours. 2 cars for what? Yeah, joke's on me again. Stay with me. Wait till you hear what's next. 2 days later, after the surgery, he comes home. My mom has the children for a few hours to allow me to continue to rest. He came in with a chip on his shoulder, daring me to ask him where he had been. I remember standing in front of him while arguing, and he put his hands around my throat. He said, "Your kids will find you dead today." All I knew is this was not the way I was going out. I felt myself blacking out. We had this 4-poster bed. I held on to that post with all my might. As I was going down, I pulled the whole post down with me. I gained a supernatural strength. I was able to break free and bust him upside the head with that post. I got him, y'all. I got him. He fell to his knees as if to ask for mercy. Y'all, this man called my mama on me. The tables are about to turn. Stay with me. I got more. 2010, somehow we had developed this unspoken rule that whoever was at home first slept in the bed. The other person slept on the couch. Most of the time I got the bed. Half of the time he never came home. When he did, it was usually around 3:30 or 4 a.m. It had really gotten disrespectful. He would come in and had a habit of turning on all the lights while we were asleep. My youngest son always slept with me in an effort to protect me. One day I decided if he's not in by 12, I'm locking him out. I began to put a chair behind the front door. I would hear his keys rattling, but he couldn't push the door open. I had that chair sitting just right. He would go back out to his truck and sleep in his truck until me and the kids left for work and for school. One night, my neighbor called my mom and said that I had my husband sleeping out in the car. Oh well. He didn't want to be there, and I didn't want him there. Lord, give me an escape plan. Stay with me, y'all. It's almost over. It was a Wednesday, 2010. My daughter had just had outpatient surgery. She had stitches and pain meds, so I had called in to work. I had gotten a text from his mistress that morning, and she was texting back to back to back. I was angry. I went into the bedroom where he was sleeping. I hit him in the head with the phone. He woke up screaming, "Ah!" My children jumped up. He chased me into the bedroom. My daughter tried to stop him. He pushed her into the wall. Remember, she had just had surgery. I came from behind and hit him down below, hard. He fell to his knees yelling. My daughter grabbed him, bit him, holding on to his ear with her teeth. He was screaming for mercy. My youngest son got the phone and called my mom, who then called the police. I'm thinking, boy, I'm going to jail today. He's bleeding everywhere. The police showed up. Remind me to tell y'all what happened next. Stay with me. The police comes. All of his clothes and shoes had already been thrown out on the front porch. No one was arrested. My oldest son had just arrived. He was hysterical. I was able to calm him down by telling him that get 2 of his friends for Friday to help me move. I would get a U-Haul, and I would get myself and his siblings out of there. I saw what this was doing to him. I saw what this was doing to my children. I saw the hurt on their faces. My daughter had to fight her father. My son was ready to end it all. I had to do this for them. I had to do this for me. I knew if I didn't do this, one of us would end up dead and the other one would end up in jail. I immediately found an apartment, paid the deposit, and had the key by Friday. My son and his friends showed up as promised. We got everything out. I left him a couch, an ironing board, and a fry daddy. We were about to be free. Stay with me. I got just a little bit more to tell you. We moved. We were happier than we had been in years. One Tuesday night, we were coming home from church. He had found us. We had gotten out of the car and my youngest son had spotted his car. He held my hand really tight and started yelling, "No, no, no, no." I noticed that his head was down in the car. He was drunk and must have fallen asleep while waiting on us. We ran into the apartment without being noticed that night. The next morning, he was gone. My next move was file for a divorce. I filed in 2011. He avoided being served. I continued to go to transparenting classes as ordered by the court. 2012, I refiled and paid again. This time the judge worked in my favor. He never showed for court. I was granted a divorce. It's 2024. This man has never seen his kids again. Thanks for staying with me. I'll come back to share where I am now. Hello. Thank you all for going on this journey with me as I start my healing process from domestic violence and domestic abuse. As stated earlier, I was diagnosed with PTSD back in 2022. I am determined to do everything that I can to heal from the things of my past. It was an ugly journey. It was one of the ugliest times of my life. I do thank God that He delivered me and my children from that situation. Just to let you know, my children are doing well. My oldest son is now 34. He is engaged with 2 beautiful daughters. My daughter, she is a Army Reserve veteran as well as a college graduate. My youngest son, he's 20. He is in his sophomore year of college, playing football and doing well. My husband, I have since remarried. My husband walks with me daily in this healing process and tries his best to understand the process of those who suffer from PTSD. Thanks again for going on this journey with me. I look forward to my healing journey, and I look forward to sharing that with you as well. Good night. Hello. If you followed my journey, you know by now what caused my complex PTSD. I wanted to add in a few other things that I feel are noteworthy to my healing journey. Trauma for me did not start with him. I had experienced a number of traumatic experiences most of my life. You see, I experienced my first trauma at the age of 3. As a young girl, I witnessed domestic abuse. I experienced verbal, emotional, and sexual abuse. I had a concussion due to a bike accident as a little girl. I became a mother at the age of 16. Life for me has always been challenging, but my determination is strong. I am now a grandmother. They call me honey. God allowed me to see my next generation. And for that, I am grateful. Let the healing begin.